I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Ketchikan City Council and this committee would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional first people of this land in Ketchikan, the Tongass Tlingit people. My name is Jack Finnegan. I'm a liaison to this committee from the Ketchikan City Council. I'm acting as chair because the clerk put me in this seat at the moment. And our first order of business will be the appointment of the chair and vice chair for this meeting and our second meeting in February. If there are any nominations for the chair, Councilmember Kistler.
I would like to nominate Mr. Jack Finnegan as the chair.
I feared that might be coming. Is there a second on the nomination?
Yes, I'd second that. And I'd like to nominate Mr. Patton as the vice chair.
Is there a second on that
Second.
vice nomination? Okay. Are there any other nominations? Then by action, do we have one coming from online? I heard a beat. All right. Seeing as there are no other nominees, then I would be seated as chair and Mr. Patton as vice chair. Second order of business will be organizational input from committee members. We're just going to make a determination as to how we're going to proceed. Momentarily, I think, has everybody who has submitted an application had an opportunity to sign up on the persons to be heard sheet that we had? I know we have one full sheet, I believe a half sheet in the rear. Is everyone who is planning on addressing the committee tonight, have you put your names on one of those lists? Excellent. So I would suggest then that we'll see these individuals in the order in which they've signed up to speak. We, as the committee members, we've received your applications. Hopefully all committee members have had a chance to review those applications. So if you feel the need to summarize or to give an overview of your application or the need, I think that's perfectly appropriate. I would ask that you keep those comments to within a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, just so that we can grant the committee time to ask any questions that we may have. And we'll just honor everybody's time to the best of our ability. Are there any other thoughts on input? Yes.
I wonder if this would be a time to let folks know which committees we have to work with, and we're going to have to recuse ourselves, and maybe you could explain how that's going to work in terms of adding.
So there's 5 members and they each put their recommended funding amount, and then it's an average of those totals amounts. If there are some committee members that are unable to recommend funding, then it will just be divided by the 4. It'll be the average of the 4 instead of the 5.
By way of example, I'm a part-time employee for City Players, so I will not participate in the discussion regarding their grant application, nor will I submit a recommendation for an amount to be awarded, because I obviously have a conflict of interest working for that organization. And I think thereby I've identified my one conflict. Do any of the committee members have other organizations they know they won't be submitting for?
I have Ketchikan Youth Court and the Ketchikan After Schools program, both rent space in the mall. So I'll be recusing myself from that. And Grow Ketchikan, I'm waiting for a determination on that.
I'm on the board of the Ketchikan County exchange program, so I probably should recuse myself from that one.
Thank you. Councilmember Kistler?
I'm a member of the Ketchikan Area Arts and Humanities Council, but I don't really active in it.
I don't think it's a conflict of interest. And then I know we have a committee member, Bethel is online. I don't know, Ms. Bethel, if you can hear me, if you have any submissions that you'll have to recuse yourself on, now would be a great time.
I do not have any submissions.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for joining us. Glad you could be here virtually if you couldn't be here in person. Okay, so that's none for committee member Bethel. Okay. Any further items regarding the organization of this meeting before we proceed? All right, we will turn the microphone over to those individuals who put their name on our list. Again, we'd ask that you just keep your introductory remarks brief. 2 or 3 minutes would be great, and that'll give us an opportunity to familiarize ourselves with you off the page and here in person, and then to ask any questions that we may have as committee members.
So first up, we have Miss Elizabeth Nelson.
Yes. Is the light supposed to come on?
Yeah, it's on the very bottom. You just,
I know. Oh, there it is. That's low. We put heavy batteries. We do a new thing, just stick it in either. They're just a problem.
she doesn't need a mic though.
That's what everybody says about me. Thank you. I'm Elizabeth Nelson, and I'm the Executive Artistic Director of First City Players. And I'd like to thank the City Council for their commitment to the arts and to the nonprofits of Ketchikan. Really is such a huge lifeblood of who we are as a community, not just the organization I represent, but all of the organizations that are represented through this program. So thank you, City, for always making it part of your budget to keep these things alive, because I tell you, what is offered through the nonprofits, you couldn't afford in any other way if they were government bodies. Anyway, off my high horse on that one. I just came from the high school where we are in rehearsals for our annual Jazz and Cabaret Festival, and I need to battle back up there. So I know that all of you have had an opportunity to look at the grant applications. If there are questions you have for me, I am happy to answer them at this time.
Are there any questions for Ms. Nelson? Okay.
That was easy.
Thank you. Good luck with rehearsals.
Thanks.
Next we have Heather Parker, who is participating virtually.
Hi. I have a little mini PowerPoint that I think will take like 2 minutes. Is it possible to share that?
I believe so.
Yes, you have to make her.
Okay, let's see
Oh,
if I can do it. Hold up just a second. Click share.
Should just
Make a
share.
presenter. No, presenter.
No.
Let's see. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So well, first of all, I wanted to thank you so much for having us and hosting this meeting and giving continued grant funding year after year to so many nonprofits in Ketchikan. My name is Heather Parker. I'm the supervising attorney for the Southeast offices of Alaska Legal Services. And in case you all didn't know, Alaska Legal Services is a statewide law firm that provides free civil legal services to low-income Alaskans to protect safety, health, and promote family stability. We only work with clients regarding civil legal matters. There's a separate agency like the Public Defender's Agency that helps folks with criminal issues. And so a lot of our cases focus on housing, divorce and custody, domestic violence protective orders, debt, bankruptcy, consumer issues, access to life care and public benefits. We help with wills, issues with native allotments, with probate. We do have eligibility requirements. These are set by the Federal Legal Services Agency. So we can serve people who are at 200% of the poverty line or lower. And we do have income and assets requirements. And then because we're a statewide law firm, we have to check for conflicts. So before we serve someone, we have to determine whether or not there's a conflict. And I just wanted to show a couple slides that show some of our resources. We offer a free website called AlaskaLawHelp.org, and we have attorneys that regularly update this website. This has a ton of different resources. For example, you can find the Alaska Advanced Healthcare Directive Form or Power of Attorney form. Those are both forms that were drafted at Legal Services, but it's like a statewide form. And then there's little videos that kind of explain how to use those documents, right? I talked about these two. We also offer a statewide service that's called the Landlord Tenant Helpline or Hotline. This is a free service. It's available to landlords and tenants, and it's offered Monday through Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. It's staffed by volunteer attorneys, but our legal services attorneys provide a ton of support to those volunteer attorneys. So we offer trainings and materials. And this is a really important service that gets a ton of use every week. For this particular grant, you probably saw our grant application, but we are asking for $36,370. And our goal is to provide support to 35 families and track outcomes, to continue to partner with other agencies, and then to host 4 community legal events. And you probably also saw in our application, as of December 2024, we had served 73 households on, I think, 87 different matters. We continue to work with partner agencies. We regularly participate in the monthly CNET community social services meetings, and then also we're starting to attend the senior elder care group, which is all over Southeast. And then last year we actually held 13 community events. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm here if there are any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Parker? I have one about those 13 community events. Are those 13 community events here in Ketchikan, or was that organization-wide throughout the state?
So I think we had 6 in-person events in Ketchikan. A lot of them were, I think, I'm sorry, I don't remember the total dates, but I think it was March 15th and 16th. We did a ton of community events. We presented at the library and at the Saxman Senior Center and at the Pioneer Home, and a couple of other places there in Ketchikan. And then we also offered a number of statewide events.
Thank you. Any other committee members have questions for Ms. Parker? All right, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Next, we have Miss Marianne Mills, who is also participating online.
Ms. Mills.
Good evening, members of the Community Grant Committee. Thank you for this opportunity tonight. My name is Marianne Mills, and I'm representing the Ketchikan Senior Center. Since 1974, our senior center has provided nutrition and transportation for Ketchikan seniors to help them maintain their health and quality of life. In 2007, a senior center meal participant and city councilman initiated grant support for the Ketchikan Senior Center, with the understanding that 100% of the grant would go to pay for either food or fuel, and that none of the funds would pay for administrative expenses. We have continued to apply for the food and fuel grant and received support from the city of Ketchikan since that time. Last year, we provided over 10,484 hot, nutritious meals to 166 senior citizens, either through our Meals on Wheels service or in the company of others at the senior center. Seniors who receive home-delivered meals are homebound and unable to come to the senior center for lunch. The hot meal is often the only meal of the day that these isolated seniors receive, and the driver who delivers the meals offers them a daily safety check. Since the pandemic ended, we have been encouraging seniors to come to the senior center for lunch. This way they can benefit from socialization and activities. We are currently recruiting for an outreach coordinator driver to help us with this outreach. Last year, the senior center drivers gave 9,412 rides to 213 seniors and people with disabilities. These rides act as a lifeline between the home and the many community activities and services available. Over 25% of the population in the city of Ketchikan is over the age of 60. As the senior population grows and the demand for meals and rides increases, so does the expense of providing services. This year, we are requesting $40,000 to help pay for food and fuel. Last year, the Ketchikan Senior Center spent over $68,000 on food and over $25,000 on fuel that was used for meal delivery and transportation. The grant that you provided significantly helped to defray these costs. Thank you for your continued support of this critical program. Through this grant, you help keep our senior citizens healthy and connected with each other and the larger community. Do you have any questions?
Councilmember Kistler.
Where is the senior center?
The senior center is located at the in Saxman right now.
And you don't have to pay rent there?
Yes, we do have to pay rent there.
Okay, it wasn't on the budget, and so that's what I was wondering.
Other questions for Ms. Mills? I do have one question, Ms. Mills. Anecdotally, you speak of this rising need. Have you, in recent years, have you seen an uptick in the number of services being provided by the seniors who are making use of your services? Has it been pretty steady? Has it been climbing sharply?
During the pandemic, the number of people who received home delivered meals increased rapidly. And since the pandemic ended, people tended to stay, most of the people tended to stay on the Meals on Wheels service. So yes, it has increased, especially in the home delivered meal area. And so we were trying to bring them back so they can benefit not only from the nutrition, but the socialization and activities. So if you know anybody who'd be a great activity and outreach coordinator, please let me know. Thanks.
Thank you. Any more questions for Ms. Mills? All right, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Austin Otis.
Mr. Otis, I believe is also on. Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I think I'm logged in as Assemblymember Otis. That is not who I'm representing today. I'm here for the Ketchikan Youth Court Director position. And our ask is for $17,500 this year. It's about a 5% increase from what we had last year. We've asked for about $11,500 for about 15 years, and unfortunately, inflation is starting to catch up with us, coupled with some cuts from our state grants. So I'm just asking for a little bit of an increase there. Some of our actions that we would like to take this year. I realized looking at our website is about 10 years old, so I'd like to get that updated and go with a new host locally to help us redesign our website and get us into the modern age. And then I think our most important objective is a continuation of the C-Level Youth Center. Our youth court program sits on the steering community. We've been meeting for about a year now monthly. We have a meeting this month. And we're going to break ground here, I think in April, I believe. So the building, if anyone isn't aware, is in the old Godfather's building across from McDonald's. It was purchased by RYC, and we have started a steering committee to guide that project, and hopefully it'll be open by 2026. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. Some things that we've done this year as Youth Court, we do the annual Blueberry Ball Roll at the Blueberry Festival, where we roll balls down the hill and raffle. And we made about $5,000 this year, so that helped contribute to our program's operational funds. And we go on a yearly conference every year with our members, and we went to Kodiak last year, and this year we're going to Nome. So those are the kinds of things that we're working on this year, and if you guys have any questions, just let me know. One thing I did notice on the application, there's an error. You guys at the very end of your process last year gave us a couple more $1,000. So I think that 11,500 is actually 13,000 change. So that's the only thing I noticed that was different. So thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Kistler.
What year did you say you were looking for opening the C-Level?
I think they're shooting for 2026, spring of 2026. I think it's going to take about a year. And on the steering committee, we have probably like 10 to 12 members of various youth organizations.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was just curious how many kids are involved in this, more or less.
Yeah, so from the members side, we have usually about 10 to 12 youth. Just a little background, Youth Court is a juvenile justice sentencing program, so we deal with real cases and we sentence juveniles to community work service and other things if you commit a misdemeanor crime, and if you complete our program, it's dismissed from your record. So we have about 12 members that are judges, attorneys in the courts, and then from the client side, we have about usually 15 to 20 every year that come through our program.
Any further questions for Mr. Otis? Thank you, Austin.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Mr. Tyrecki.
Ty Redke with the Path Shelter, Ketchikan Committee for the Homeless. I'm actually here for two separate applications, one for the past general operating grant that we have gotten for numerous years, and then one separate, at the advice of the manager, we submitted a separate application for a warming shelter, which is something that we had tried to put together this year, and that did not happen, so we're shooting again for next one. I did send on some supplemental information today. I realized that the application process for the humanitarian grant is kind of new. It's only been this way for a couple of years now, so I noticed it's very limited on what it actually asks for. So I thought some of this information might be helpful as well. So I'll start with the path, I guess, and just say if there's any questions for the path side. The biggest budget constraints and why we've asked for a significant amount more is we know that there's going to be some increases in costs for the utilities. With the council having recently voted to increase the electric rate by 12.5, there's also indication that we're probably going to have to do the same thing for water and sewer. Utilities is one of our largest expenses, running about $30,000 a year. So with the price of oil, heating oil continue to be high, we just kind of are estimating that that's going to increase that by about $5,000 a year. Similarly, we know that insurance rates have been skyrocketing. We've been talking to other folks, and their property protection rates have doubled in some cases. So we look at ours, which we roughly pay about $8,500 in insurance for all of our different insurances. And so we're kind of estimating about a $4,000 increase, just as kind of a round number in there. Our building, as I've harped on it about for 10 years now almost, is very old and very worn out. And we're starting to see the effects of that. We've had some, even in just the last few weeks, we've had some pretty major cost indications that we're going to have to replace maybe our heating system and things like that. So we also have some plumbing and electrical projects and things like that that need to be addressed this year. So we're looking at some pretty significant maintenance things. So a big part of the increase is not going to be operational. It's going to be like one-time maintenance things, hopefully. We're not going to be increasing our base salary rates this year, but we are going to be trying to find some folks to do some night coverage to give our existing staff some breaks and kind of ease some of that burnout that we've seen over the last few years. And that was probably going to, increase our wage and salary a lot as well. Everything else is, of course, going up, as everybody will tell you tonight, I'm sure. But I just wanted to point out that we also saw nearly a 29% increase this year, or last year rather, 2024, in service transactions. So we had 5,507 bed nights, which is one person and one bed for one night. And we did see about a little over 22% increase in the number of clients we served this year over last. So we served 126 people this year and like 103 in 2023. So any questions about the path?
Questions for Mr. Redke on the Path Shelter? Okay, Di, do you want to jump into the warming shelter?
Yeah,
The
warming shelter, again, we estimate and luckily we did, we did a bunch of this work, as some of it will be very familiar to some of the folks on the committee, to kind of figure out this temporary shelter that would be a winter only shelter and would only be in the evening and up the Methodist Church. So I included like the timeframes to kind of give you this idea of why we need the number of people we do and some budgetary information. I did increase some of the numbers in this to show some of those inflationary increases. So the total amount we're looking at for that project is around 163,000. We did ask for 100,000 out of this because the city is, generally speaking, is usually the largest contributor for these, having those social services powers. I did not notice until after that the cap for the humanitarian was 180. So I do understand if you have to lower it because of that. But yeah, we still stand, very much ready to implement these things. I included kind of the job description so you can tell the skill sets that we're looking for. I did update the overview. KIC, of course, is operating a very limited warming shelter in their property across from the plaza. It's a wonderful addition to the service net that we have, but it is pretty limited. It only allows 12 people a night, and it is currently limited to tribal members, although they are, trying to find funding to kind of open that up. They contacted us when they started that process, and we were, I gave them all of this stuff and said, this is how we were going to do it. Anything I can do to help. But ultimately, I think that the numbers that we see of folks just walking around really do need something like we talked about this fall in the facility in the church where we can serve. So, any questions about the warming shelter?
Questions for Mr. Recchi on the warming shelter? I do have one, Ty. You mentioned a ballpark figure, and I know it's an estimate of around $160,000 to get this service functional. If you were to be granted $100,000, say, toward the warming shelter from the city, you have a bead on where that remainder may come from.
Yes. When we were doing this a few months ago, it feels like a year ago, but it's not. We did have good eyes on funding from Peace Health and Rasmussen. KIC was interested in providing some. I'm not sure how they feel about that now that they are doing their own right now, but it might alleviate them needing to do it next year. But so I think the rest of the funding is out there. It's just going to take a major contributor, hence the $100,000 ask. So.
And one additional question: do you know the capacity? You said it was Methodist Church was the partner for this.
Yes.
Yeah, and what do you know what the capacity would be?
What we went through at the fire marshal and building inspector, I believe, and what we came up with because of the egress and whatnot that's there, which is actually pretty good. It's just not sprinkled. They were comfortable with 20 to 25 as a kind of general baseline, and they were even open to the idea of, like, in extreme weather conditions, even opening it up further for like an individual night. If it just suddenly tanked and went to 0 degrees or something crazy like that, they were open to letting us do something like that as well.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Recchi? All right, thank you for being here this evening.
Kathleen Light.
Hello, thank you. My name is Kathleen Light. I'm the director of the Ketchikan Area Arts and Humanities Council. Every year I want to come up and say something really dramatic and meaningful to you about the importance of the Arts Council. And every year I am struck speechless by what shows up in the room with the network of support systems that we have in our community of nonprofits. And this room supports our community like no other community I've ever been in before. And I'm proud to be in this cohort supporting our community. The arts in Ketchikan are not only, they not only draw visitors, they not only draw people to move to our community, but it's a source of mental health. Tonight is a great example of why the arts are important in our community. And you know, from First City Players to the Wearable Art Show, the Blueberry Arts Festival. Mr. Odos just gave a great example of how that's exponential, and that not only helps those artists and the community, but it also helps other nonprofits generate revenue or give out information for their organizations. The art walks on, we hold 3 art walks a year. This is a great opportunity for local arts businesses to showcase themselves and get 100 people in their room at a time and squish them all in at once and make an enormous amount of revenue in a very short amount of time. This is what the arts do for this community. Story Slam is a stunning program that allows us to meet each other at a different level. There is no other way to learn about a person than through storytelling and how that story is developed and expressed and how we learn a little tiny bit about a person's character and the way they think about their life at Story Slam. The Main Street Gallery is a showpiece in Alaska, and I'm not only bragging about that because I love the place. When other administrators around the state come to our building, they're astounded about how beautiful that gallery is. That gallery is there for our emerging artists, and it gives them a place to grow from. We had an artist come in just recently who is now a jewelry designer and a book illustrator and making a living in those fields. She started with a gallery exhibit at the Main Street Gallery, and that's the kind of power that little building has. So I hope that you support the Ketchikan Area Arts and Humanities Council's grant request. We did increase a teeny tiny little bit, and of course I can tell you all the same reason that everyone else is going to say that they increased, but I thank you for your work, and I thank you for the support of all the organizations in this room.
Any questions for Ms. Knight?
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Mr. Terry Wanter and Stephen Reeves.
First two, so I'm Stephen Reed.
Terry Wanzer, Historic Ketchikan.
Yeah, well, we presented you, I think, a pretty extensive amount of information. We don't need to go in great detail tonight. Our focus over this coming year will be, we really want to advance the Yates Memorial Hospital. I think most of you are aware of that. It's always been our #1 historic preservation priority. It tells a lot about the history of our community. A hospital that served our boom times, the only one between Juneau and Seattle, and we're made a lot of progress this year to preserving it, and we're on the road to success with that. What's more on that one, Terry?
Oh, I just wanted to, just a minute, just to read a sentence to you. The major Alaska activities have always been seasonal and consequently entail a great movement of people and commodities northward during the few weeks of spring and southward during the short period in the fall. This has made the concentrated unbalanced north-south traffic during the active season of the year and a great dearth of traffic in the inactive winter season. The one saving feature is the heavy round-trip tourist traffic of the 3 months of summer. This was published in June of 1940, 85 years ago, and published at the Yates. That's where the Alaska Sportsman had its home for many, many years. And so we plan to try to maintain the character of the downtown. There's so many places that don't have a character. So we think that's really important. We've been doing this for 37 years. So.
Our goal is we have a number of small events this year. We're just in the process of assuming ownership of the building. We should have that in the next couple of weeks, and that's key to accessing grants across the country. We're listed as one of the 11 most important United States historic properties to be preserved, and that's a a good shot at helping us get grants. So we're pretty confident in our ability to do this. And our big goal is that the revenues we get from the completed building will fund historic preservation activities in perpetuity here in Ketchikan. So that's what we're striving for.
And in your packet, you also note that we have been publishing Our Town publication. We're getting ready to do number 9. The first one was 1996. The pulp mill was still in operation at that time. So there's no other city in Alaska that does a publication like this. And we try to do it every 2 years. So
Does everyone have a copy of this?
for the law,
Do you have one?
I'll take one.
We brought a couple along.
Okay.
Might as well have one. Thanks.
And the city also has joined with us in realizing that the waterfront promenade is extremely important. It's not only important for the people that come and visit, the 7 months of the year, we get to enjoy it as well. If you give up your waterfront, you don't get it back. So you have built sections of it. The first section that we did in 1988 or 89 was right behind the federal building, that little section there. And then, thank you, you've continued it on as well.
The walking tour map is also something we do every year. We're in the process right now of upgrading that and improving it all the time. We also do the signage around town. We've got some ancient ones that are pretty rough shaped. The kiosk signs that are around town, we did those 32 years ago. Some of them need to be replaced. The colorful character signs like you'll see on the Heckman Building and all around the downtown and Creek Street and Stedman Thomas. We have a start on, we've done 15. There's really about 60 that we need to do in town. And our real goal this year is to get the funds, outside funds, to be able to focus on the Newtown, Hopkins Alley area that will help disperse visitors into that area. That's almost 70% of visitors that come to Ketchikan are interested in the heritage of Ketchikan. And these signs are the key to that. And we want to be able to really enhance that area and have it also become much more of a visitor destination. And again, solving some of our visitor dispersion problems.
And again, we always repeat this, that Ketchikan is blessed with having more historic structures than any other place in Alaska.
Yeah.
So.
And then we always help the private sector in the Pioneers Hall, where the funding comes through us to do Pioneer Hall restoration work. And that project has got a long way to go, but it's moving.
Well, they just started the foundation this week.
That's right.
Yes.
Thanks to a very good group of people at Pioneers doing it. That's really our presentation. Any questions?
Questions? Yes, Mr. Patton.
What is the Yates Building? Where is that?
It is, where the St. John's Episcopal Church is, immediately adjacent to it on the left is the Yates Building.
Okay.
It's 1905, the hospital for 20-some years.
And then how will it develop? How will it have revenue once it's?
My dream, and I think the story Ketchikan's is, there's a real story to be told about how the nurses kept Ketchikan alive during this boom year when everything was happening. The town was built in that 20-year period. Of almost all the buildings you can think of in the downtown are going to be celebrating their 100-year anniversary. They already have, or like Ketchikan Daily News, you name it, Heckman's 1922, right? 22, right around this time. And there was a lot going on in the town. That hospital was key to keeping people alive.
Okay.
So we'd really like to, the first floor, be happy to take anyone on a tour who hasn't been. It's just as it was in 1909 when the hospital was done. There's a fireplace that works, the surgery room is there, nothing has changed. And we'd love to be able to take people into that space, focus on the contribution of the nurses. And we're right on the walk on Mississippi Street. We see that as a good revenue source. And then we have the upstairs, which has opportunities for nonprofit offices or a lot of other things. So we see the revenue coming from rental revenue and visitor revenue.
Other questions from the committee?
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Deborah Hayden?
Hello. I think Kathleen said it all at the size of your package over there, the appreciation that we have for you going through that. Must be 1,000 pages. I really think so. And thank you for doing this every year. I'm the executive director of Grow Ketchikan, president of Ketchikan Land Trust, and now the contractor for housing and homelessness in Ketchikan for the city. So, but this is all about the Grow Ketchikan. Grow Ketchikan, by the way, right now is acting as the fiscal agent for the land trust because although I applied last March for its 501c3, it doesn't have it yet. The IRS has been delaying. Let's put it that way. Not easy to do. So we're waiting for that to happen, but still it will be helping. And this is all about, I think I mentioned in the cover letter some of the economic benefits that Grow Ketchikan brings to Ketchikan. And one of them was in the facilitating the Tongass townhomes, the 20-unit low to moderate income development that's now complete and is open for residents. That it brought $2.6 million just in hiring subcontractors to build that. And next year, or this year, they've applied again for funding from the Alaska Housing, and they've got land already lined out in Saxman across from Three Bears for another project. It'll be another at least $2.6 million just for the subcontractors that they've hired in Ketchikan. And it's not just about the money, it's about the benefit to the community in providing housing for people who are paying exorbitant rates or can't find it at all. They're living in substandard quarters, and these will be good units for them. So I just wanted to emphasize that aspect of when we do economic development, we're creating a quality of life for the whole community, especially for those who are less endowed than the rest, than many of us. That was what I wanted to emphasize in here. The rest of it is in the application that you've read with all the hundreds of others. And if you have questions, I'll.
Questions for Ms. Hayden? Councilmember Kiston.
There was a membership expense of $2,355. What kind of memberships are those?
Oh, I'm a member of Southeast Conference, and it was through one of their conferences that I made the connection with Aparna Palmer, the chancellor at UAS, and to work on the development of the Research and Development Center for Mariculture Products. And so it's through those memberships that we make those kind of connections. One of them is I'm a member of the chamber, member of the Northwest Community Land Trust Coalition. So there's a lot of memberships. And so that's why it's so high. But it's through those that we make those connections and get things accomplished.
Any other questions for Ms. Hayden?
I might mention that we just got a donation of the land on Panic Island from the Wounded Veterans Alaska Adventures nonprofit. And in the application, I said I would be investigating the zoning, and it's restricted. It's low density residential is what I found out. And so we probably won't be putting houses on that land because anybody that we're working with low to moderate income people, and to live there, they would have to have a boat. And that would be an expensive proposition. It would just be something that it would be easier to live here. And so we'll build houses here for them. But we could possibly do something like an agricultural project, and this is just in my imagination. I haven't run it by anybody at the board yet, but we could do greenhouses, and this is that is one of the economic diversification strategies in our list for raising like microgreens for export. That actually happened here once. There was apparently someone who was doing that, and put it in our diversification strategy. And we could combine that with the Wounded Veterans Project, where they bring veterans to Alaska to have experiences here and be teaching them about raising microgreens for export, just to get away from their daily lives. And those experiences that the Wounded Veterans Organization has given these people has helped them with their PTSD considerably. So we're looking at some way that we can help support that mission now that they've donated that land to us. So I just wanted you to know that.
I do have one other question regarding any efforts you make in the direction of mariculture, which you mentioned both here at the podium and in your application. I wondered if you'd had any conversations with the Ketchikan Agricultural Producers Association, which I know is starting up. And just full disclosure, I serve on the board of CAPA, so I'm not advocating. I just, on their behalf, I understand.
I know what they're doing. When they were getting started, I helped them get extensive market research for the Foraged and Found organization. And it turns out that Jen is very good at writing grants, so she wrote her own grant for the CAPA. I think we would be very willing to help do that, but they seem to be doing it on their own just fine. So we're ready to collaborate if they want, in whatever aspect.
Thank you. Any further questions for Ms. Hayden? All right, appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Allison Nieder.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm here representing the Ketchikan Community Concert Band. This is our first time that we've applied for this grant, and we're requesting funds to bolster our mission statement, which is to foster inspiration and joy through music by providing a place adults can practice, learn, and perform in a community of fellow musicians. And so to play and learn and grow in music in community, we need to have band members. And one of the things we'd like to focus on is, one of our goals is increasing membership this year. And part of the way that we do that is by hearing members and hearing community members the barriers that they have to play music. And oftentimes it's access to an instrument, or maybe they need maintenance, upkeep, that kind of thing. So we have a lending library, and we would like to request some funds in order to upkeep the instruments that we have in our lending library. That's part of a thing you just have to do, that you have to pay for. And also eventually perhaps buy instruments as well, among other things. But the main goal with this is to increase our membership by 10%. And the rest of that is listed in the application. Have any questions for me?
Questions for Ms. Nieder? I do have a question about the lending library. Just out of curiosity, is that all consolidated? Is it in one location, or are the instruments that are part of that lending library kind of dispersed throughout the community?
I think they all live in the area that we rehearse. Yeah. Yeah, it says I'm right.
So there's some control over that environment.
Yeah, it's a locked space. I think that there's something that we put people, have them read before they take an instrument out, with the idea that they'll return it in the same condition that they get it in.
Thank you. Other questions from the committee? All right, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Matt Armstrong.
Hey everyone, Matt Armstrong. I'm here representing the Ketchikan-Garo-Kaniama Exchange Board. And did you all receive the addendum that I sent today? Okay, so basically we're requesting $8,000, which is less than we requested last year, if that counts for anything. But basically, we are, after a long time, we were incorporated in 1986, and almost continuously, we've had a teacher from Ketchikan, usually a Ketchikan citizen. We've had somebody from Ketchikan in the elementary and middle schools in what was Kaneyama, Japan, Ketchikan's sister city. Kaneyama was absorbed into Garo, larger city, back in the early 2000s, but we've maintained that sister city relationship. But due to factors really beyond anyone's control here in Ketchikan, it's just become sort of untenable to continue sending an exchange teacher and keeping that part of the relationship intact. So the exchange is still going to conduct the student exchanges every year, as long as there's interest in both towns. And, this year, this is the third class that we are sending since we resumed after COVID. But this year we have 12 students going from Ketchikan to Garo for about a week and a half or 2 weeks in early June. And we actually had more kids apply this year than we were able to accommodate. So there's a lot of interest in keeping the exchange going. But again, the teacher portion is at least now on hiatus just until, it's like I said, a lot of things out of our control. Cost of applying for a visa to get the Japanese teacher here, just the timeline of getting that visa as well. So we are looking for funding to basically fulfill the contract for the teacher that we have currently in Garo. Her contract expires at the end of June. So we're looking for funding to basically ensure that we're able to fulfill her contract and also reimburse her expenses to come back to Ketchikan, which is part of the whole deal with being the teacher over in Garo. And, the Japanese student group, they'll be here in late March, early April. So I also need to keep in mind that there are some expenses associated with that in terms of, busing, transportation for the students while they're here, things like that. And, really, that's the main thrust of what we're requesting the $8,000 for.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Armstrong? I have one regarding the timing. It's really great to hear that there was strong interest from local students who are interested in going. When do they make their interest known? When does that application period get underway?
So that all starts in the fall. So really close to actually the start of the school year, we try to get the word out, go to show and bar to do a presentation, an assembly, things like that, to let parents know, to let students know that the exchange is happening. And then we accept applications throughout September and October with the goal of having interviews with the students concluded and a class selected by the 1st of November. Because once the students are selected, once chaperones are selected, they have to get started on fundraising, payments for their tickets and all that. So we try to have a class selected by early November.
Thank you. Other questions for Mr. Armstrong? Thank you, Matt.
All right, thank you.
Lisa Scarborough.
Good evening, Lisa Scarborough, Love in Action. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to give kudos to Taylor and Kim for their communications. It's been really wonderful. They're timely. They send us reminders. This is all really wonderful. We appreciate their time in reminding us of things. You have our application. I'd like to highlight 2 new programs that we did start this year. When First City Homeless Services closed down, our board met and we discussed what it is we could do to try and help fill a little bit of the gap with them not having a space to be in. We are doing breakfast Monday through Friday from 8 to 9. They just stop by my office and pick up a bag of breakfast items, includes juice and pastry and fresh fruit and cheese sticks and fruit bars and just a wide variety of different food items. I give them 2 bus tokens a day so they can get around for the day. And that includes also toiletries that we provide too, that they're welcome to take as they need them. I've served 149 individuals since June 17th. We started the Monday after First City Homeless Services closed down. I'm outright averaging about 12 a day. It could go as high as 25. It could be as low as 5. It just depends. I have to get up and come. So that's kind of the impetus, that part of it. But some of them I think have left town. Some of them, they'll move in and out of someone's house maybe. So we're averaging about 35 or 40 individuals a week throughout the week, and they just come and go as they choose to do so. So I wanted to mention that. And then we also have started a new what we call a homeowners utilities assistance program. It's just a once a year assistance, a maximum of $500 for people who own their homes, trailers, condos. Up till this last year, we just started it last year. We've never been able to do assistance for utilities for people that own their homes. Our grants are all geared to people that have. So it's under disconnect, under eviction. So it's limited to that, but we had some funding and we wanted to do something a little bit different because I get a few calls and for people looking for help with their utilities when they own their home. So we started that this last year. Questions?
Question from Scarborough. I'm curious about that, the homeowner utilities assistance. I'm really glad to hear that a program like that is in place. You said you get just a few calls a year?
Yeah, I don't get a lot because, for people that are in the homes, because over the years, we've had a homeless grant from the state of Alaska, a basic homeless assistance program grant, but it only will pay utilities if you're actually in a rental. You have to be under disconnect. You can actually, according to Alaska state law, if your utilities get disconnected and you don't have them on and you can't keep the heat on and stuff, you actually can be evicted from your apartment. Our grant covers that. So up until now, we've not had funding to do anything for people that own their homes. But we've had some extra funding the last couple of years. And so we targeted some money towards that. It's just a once a year thing, a maximum of $500, but it's there.
$500 per applicant?
Yes, per applicant, yeah. Which usually covers, it just depends on where you live. If you live in the borough, it almost always covers at least a couple months because you have to be under disconnect before we'll address it. We don't prepay anything. Our grant doesn't prepay anything either. They have to be under disconnect or under eviction in order for me to address it. So in the city, it just kind of depends. But it will almost always bring someone current. So and with the disconnect notice, you just have to bring it current before the disconnect cutoff time is in order to carry you forward an extra month.
I see. Other questions from the committee for Ms. Scarborough?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Linda Faber.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Linda Faber. I'm the Southeast Regional Director for the Boys and Girls Club of South Central Alaska. I am tasked right now with getting Ketchikan back up and running. We are located at the Nazarene Church. And right now our average daily attendance is about 25 kids, but that doesn't mean we only serve 25 kids. We have about 150 members yearly. We have kids that only come during winter breaks, spring break, summer break, things like that. So we might not see the same kids every single day, but we keep an eye on as many kids as we can throughout Ketchikan. We did disappear, for people who are wondering. We temporarily joined with Saxman when COVID hit. The Lutheran Church is where we were at for about 15 years. So I haven't spoken to this committee in about 4 years, I think. But we have been here and we have done a lot. We weren't limited to just Saxman. It was just that location. So we have continued, especially through COVID. We kept our employees going. We brought in, it was just under like 3,000 pounds of food that we made of food boxes. We gave to families throughout Ketchikan with youth. We put together art projects, STEM projects. We had virtual classes and things that just to keep the youth engaged. And our organization was able to keep our staff employed through that time, which it was rough, right? But we maintained and we carried on. Saxman through that themselves, they have, after COVID, they have done more tours and things, renting out the building. So the space that was designated for us, they kept renting out, which is fine, but then we found we were being closed more than open, and the push was always to come back to Ketchikan. So I'm like super excited to be back in Ketchikan. Saxman, there was a barrier for some Ketchikan families. The bus, if it goes like every hour, if you have more than one youth, if you're a single parent, you don't drive, it's kind of hard to get back and forth. So we're very excited, like I said, to be back in Ketchikan. As a regional director, I have spent the last 2 years, I have 5 clubs under me right now. So I have traveled, I have become a trainer with Boys and Girls Club. I train our youth mentors. Under Boys and Girls Club, I'm a mastermind Tier 2 trainer. I'm CPR first aid trainer. Our staff that we have in Ketchikan are all, they all grew up here. They all graduated from K-High. Well, one did for Villa. So they're all local. They have families. They have houses. They are really engaged, and it's so great to see these young people become now the mentors for this next generation. So I've got to travel to different places across the United States and different clubs in Alaska, and community engagement is key. So whatever you will support us with, we will be happy with that, so we can keep going, and then we get more partnerships. I'm looking forward to new partnerships and collaborations, and growing more of the ones that I've had for years. If you have any questions I can answer, I will.
Questions for Ms. Faber? Councilmember Fisher.
So, yeah, we didn't hear about you. And so how are we going to hear about you in the future?
Well, we are doing more. We're doing more. Working, talking, getting out more advertising. We did have a change in leadership. Our main office is in Anchorage. And so we didn't have a media person, and now we do. So we're getting on more scheduled ways of doing that to get out. And I have been myself, and other staff have been volunteering with other things. I sit on the nonprofit, Ketchikan Nonprofit Collaboration. I'm the secretary. Yeah. I also
Write that down.
I work at I've helped run the Salvation Army Social Services for 17 years, so I talk to many people across, and it's just we haven't pushed Ketchikan opening until we kind of got settled. So we're there now, and I've been tasked with taking over the leadership of the club. So I intend to get out more. But yeah, like I volunteered into the Native Youth Olympics. That was so fun. And I'm like, yes. And seeing kids from other places that are our club kids too. So it was great.
I have a question about location. You're working out of the Nazarene Church right now. Is the objective to kind of take root there or to expand beyond that?
Well, hopefully. And in all honesty, Ketchikan is the only club that pays rent anywhere. Our other clubs have been worked with the city and or the tribes in their locations, so they have a building that they work out of, and or like in Saxman, we're given a designated space. That's ours. So hopefully we'll have our own space one day. But if we outgrow where we're at, that would be awesome. And then we'll just keep pushing forward.
Thank you. Any further questions for Ms. Faber?
No.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bernice Metcalf.
Hello, I'm Bernice Metcalf with Southeast Senior Services Ketchikan Case Management Program. I want to thank you guys for your continued support for what I do, and I am here to hopefully try to answer any questions you may have about what I do.
Yeesh.
All on us, committee. Are there any questions then about the services provided?
Well, how is it different from like Southeast Senior Services?
So my program is the case management program, which is separate from the senior center. So I do the paperwork part with the seniors. Okay. I do the more in-depth case management with caregivers and seniors 16.
Any further questions? All right, well, that was short and sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacqueline Pope?
Hi. I'm gonna pass these out. And then they look really nice this year. So, SAIL, I'm Jacqueline Pope, I'm the Regional Director of SAIL, otherwise known as Southeast Alaska Independent Living. We are an independent living center, and for those of you who don't know, independent living centers are founded by people with disabilities for people with disabilities. That means half of our staff is required to have been experiencing a disability. Currently, our staff, 75% of us, experience a disability, so we're ahead of our target goal. We have a lot of different programs, so I'm just going to run through them real quick. I'm going to show you what we do. We have, first off, we are the Aging and Disability Resource Center, otherwise known as our ADRC, and that's we help people who were diagnosed after the age of 22 get on Medicaid waiver and get those supports that they can get Medicaid to pay for. That could be in-home care, respite. It can be going to programs like Rendezvous so that their caretakers can get some time to go to work and or have a break throughout the day. We also are the State's Developmental Disabilities Resource Connection. It's similar to our ADRC program, we call it our DDRC, and that's for people who have been diagnosed before the age of 22. In addition to that, we have a veterans program, which we call our Voice program, and that helps get veterans to work with the VA in order to get in-home supports. A lot of times they will pay a family member or a loved one to help have their care done at the house so they can stay and age in place. We also have our outdoor recreation program, otherwise known as our ORCA program, which I know, Jack, you have been in that position before. We call it our sexy program because it's like the fun one to talk about. And then this year, one change is we did split our outdoor recreation and our employment program into two different positions. So we work with a division of vocational rehab to help people with disabilities get and maintain a job. We also go into the high schools, and this year we're going into the middle schools. Hopefully, we'll have a meeting next week to start also doing pre-employment classes. So that's helping them apply for, like, look at a resume and help them kind of come up with career goals, stuff like that. We also can do recreation to work on soft skills, how to communicate with your peers or a boss or something like that. And then we also have our loan closet, which is we provide durable medical equipment to people who need it for at least 3 months. They can always ask to extend that if they would like. And that could be for anyone, short-term, long-term disabilities. With that, I do also, I'm not going to take up much more of your time, but this particular story is of some girl who was in Ketchikan. We also write grants. This year, we've seen a growing need in grant writing. And she, through our DDRC specialist who wrote some grants for her, she was able to receive hearing aids this year. And so you can read it more into that if you would like. Like I said, the growing need is exponential this year. So we've been kicking butt writing grants left and right with the Alaska Mental Health Trust, the traumatic brain injury. We do, and like people transitioning out of nursing facilities, stuff like that. So, yeah. Any questions for us?
Questions for Ms. Pope?
All right.
Thank you.
Adrian Gaines and Danita Odell.
Hello, my name is Adrian Gaines. I'm the interim executive director for WISH right now. This is Danita Odell, our housing coordinator. WISH historically has applied for this funding for our prevention programming We, however, successfully integrated one of our major prevention programming back into the school district this past school year. So we've pivoted and are asking for 1/3 the funding of a full-time housing coordinator. Any questions?
Any questions? From the committee? None. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Connor Pope?
Good evening. My name is Connor Pope. I'm the Executive Director at Rendezvous Senior Day Services Incorporated. I was put in this position in April, and I think it's been a really great year so far. Rendezvous is a senior day center that caters to seniors with disabilities, and adults with disabilities. We're open 8 till about 3:30 every day. We provide activities and socialization, restaurant quality meals at lunchtime, 2 different snack times. We commit to going for a grocery shopping trip every Wednesday. We have a bus that we keep maintained with the help of the borough. And Fridays are our busiest day. Usually we'll have about, I would say 15, maybe 16 members on Fridays, and other days are closer to a dozen members on a day. Me and my manager are full-time staff. I have 3 more part-time staff, 2 of which are disabled. And then we're lucky enough to have about half a dozen volunteers throughout the week. I am open for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Pope? Curious about that Wednesday shopping trip. Do your clients join you then on that trip, and it's just
Yeah.
you're providing a ride and
Right.
any guidance is
Yeah, our
needed?
Wednesdays are busy. we're lucky enough to get food donations from Safeway every Wednesday. On Mondays, we get fresh produce donations from Ketchikan Outpost. And on Wednesdays, yeah, we get a donation from Safeway. The center itself takes what it needs from those donations, and then our seniors get to have a little quick shopping trip through those donations. Anything from there is historically and still brought to the thrift store property. And then, yeah, after our lunch, we pile into our bus, and we've got a rotating schedule of AMP, Three Bears, Safeway, and Walmart. And the seniors adore it. Yeah, they love it. And they get to provide some support to their family and get out and socialize and spend some cash.
Any further questions from the committee? Oh, thank you, Connor.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Schultz.
Hello, thank you for having me tonight. My name is Elizabeth Schultz, and I am the director of the Ketchikan After School Program, commonly referred to as CAP, and we're part of the RYC umbrella. We run and operate under RYC. We serve students in 6th through 9th grade. We have year-long programming after school upstairs in the plaza, which Judy hears all from us. I'm looking for funding for our summer camp. Again, we serve students that are rising 6th graders through rising 9th graders. If you're familiar with childcare in this town, it's a nightmare to begin with. But once you've gone through 5th grade, there's really very few options for kids. So we have kids that are 11, 12, 13 years old with all summer and not a lot to do. Our program is totally free for all participants, and we operate Monday through Friday from 10 to 5 p.m. We usually have a staff from 4 to 6 people that are engaged and ready to hang out with kids. I can go into the details of all that we do, but our program is the definition of primary prevention. We have kids engaged, connected with their peers, learning social emotional skills, active. Last year we had 50 days of programming. Throughout the summer, we were outside for 49 of them. So they're exercising, they're not alone. There's several adults that are happy to see them every day. We also provide lunch daily. So last summer we served over 370 lunches throughout the course of the summer. And so we just have the best time. It's really a time for kids to be kids for a few more years. and not be by themselves or not be wandering the streets, maybe not making the best decisions. And we do a lot of fun, cool things which I'd be happy to expand on, but I think it's pretty much in our grant applications. But I don't know if anybody has any more questions.
Questions from Ms. Schultz? How long has the program been at the plaza now?
In the plaza, I think it was founded in the plaza in 2019. We've moved spaces to a bigger space now. So we've been there pretty much since the start.
And have you seen an uptick? I'm sorry.
But not the summer program, right? How long is the summer program?
The summer program, this will be our 4th summer program out of 5 years.
Sorry.
It's fine. And in those years, have you seen a growth in the number of participants?
Absolutely. Yeah. We did go down a little bit this last summer just because we had less staff. So we had staff members that had to leave a couple weeks early, and we just couldn't, we like to keep our ratio, really manageable with the kids. But we definitely, during the school year, we see anywhere from 25 to 40 kids on a daily basis. And so that's a big swath of the population of kids in that age range. Last summer we had about 50 unique students. The summer before we had close to 60 unique students that we saw throughout the summer.
Other questions from the committee? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
That is the last person I had on my list. I don't know if there's anyone else here.
Are there any applicants who did not sign up and did not have the opportunity to speak with the committee this evening?
There's no one here from Ketchikan Moment, or did I miss that?
I was just looking through my list too. I don't believe so.
Where does that put us?
Next meeting. So the next meeting will be February 3rd at 6:30 here. At that meeting, that will be the opportunity for the council to ask any additional questions. If they do have any questions, beforehand, I'll try to email them to you so you can be prepared for them. We will say the average amount, so we'll say the funding request, and this is the amount that will go to the council for final approval. Just so you guys know, there was 454,483 requested, and the city council approved 396,900 for this grant. So the meeting, I believe it's February 16th that this will go before the council. Does that sound correct? I can always send out an email too to let you know.
I think it's the 3rd for our meeting, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, it's.
The February 3rd is the meeting here, and then those fundings amount will go to the city council, which is the February 16th meeting where those funding amounts will be discussed and then approved.
It's actually the 20th.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Unless you want to come on some.
Sorry, wrong date.
All right, so having established our next meeting date and having no further presentations, we'll turn things over to committee member comments. Ms. Bethel, since you're online, I'll have you speak first if you have any comment this evening.
It's kind of my first rodeo here, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kistler.
Oh, thanks everybody for coming. Yeah, this is gonna be difficult. Yeah, I don't see one that's not a great thing for the community, so thanks for everything you do and all the volunteers that help you.
Mr. Patton.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I know that filling out grants is not the most exciting thing to do in the world, and sometimes you see double after all those numbers and stuff, but thanks for doing that and continuing to support your different groups.
Ms. Singh.
Just thank you guys for all that you do, and we'll do our very best to divvy this up as equitably as we can. If you have any questions of me, you know where I live. Deborah, I will need to follow up, and I'll do that with the attorney. I forgot to ask him about that.
And I will add, as has been mentioned, I thought Ms. Nelson, Elizabeth Nelson of First City Players said it well when she spoke to enormous breadth of activities that are provided by nonprofits in this community, and what an impossible task it would be to expect any government to manage the same breadth of resources that you provide for our citizens, most often our citizens in need, but also addressing many, many other needs in this community, and everything from historic preservation to the arts. Having worked with and for and among nonprofits in my years here in Ketchikan, I had a sense of the reach and the scope of the work that's done by these organizations. But when you dig into the details, reading through a binder like this, it really knocks your socks off to think about all the many steps that are taken by all these organizations just to effectuate their missions. So my hat is off to you. I wish we had every dollar for every request. Fortunately, it's not a huge cut that we have to make, but we will have to trim here and there. And I also want to echo something that Ms. Scarborough said about the clerk's office, which I think is an overlooked and underappreciated function of the city. There's a tremendous amount of work that's done by the clerk's office. And I'm not at all surprised to hear that those of you that have been working with these two have had a positive experience with their communication and their efforts. So, yeah, real hard work and complicated work that I don't even fully understand as a council member. Beyond that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.